When I started learning Chinese, I took Chinese classes simply because there were no Japanese classes at my university and Chinese seemed like the second best thing. But somehow during the course of my studies I genuinely fell in love with the language, like voluntarily. And now I truly believe that even apart from the job prospects that it offers, Chinese is a beautiful language, is a wonderful language to learn. So in this video I'm gonna talk about the top 5 reasons why I love Chinese so much, besides it boosting my resume. So the first reason is that Chinese is like a complete U-turn of everything you know about how languages work and about how cultures work. When you're learning Chinese, it's like you're living in a completely different universe. And it works by completely different rules. You feel that the sentence structures are so much different, that the words don't really have exactly the same meaning as their English translations, that Chinese people express their emotions differently, they use completely different interjections, for example, and it's all so much fun to learn. It's like you have a whole new universe to explore and you can't really extrapolate your previous knowledge from previous languages and from previous cultures into Chinese studies. And this is great, it is very useful for your brains too. It's just like righties learn to write with their left hand or learn to use the touchpad with their left hand. They create new links between neurons, new synapses, and this effectively makes them smarter. Same with Chinese. When you learn a completely different language and when you dive into a completely different culture, you have to dissect it to understand it. And when you do that, it makes you more inquisitive, it makes you more curious and more tolerant to our differences, and this is great. This is one of the reasons I love Chinese so much. The second reason is the beauty of its characters. Yes, Chinese writing system is very illogical and hard to learn, but aren't they just amazing? And after all, they do preserve ancient meanings and ancient logic. Like, if you look at the character Wo, which means I, and which is probably the first character you learn when you start Chinese. Okay, no, the first one's gonna be 你好, then you learn the question 你好吗, and then you learn 我很好. So it's like 你好吗, it's like fourth character that you learn. So once, long time ago, it looked like this. It consists of a hand and a spear, and initially it meant some kind of a weapon. Then it was borrowed to mean the pronoun I, probably because it had a similar pronunciation. But then, after all, you did need a weapon to protect yourself back then, and sometimes even now if you walk in a bad neighborhood. Well, scientifically, we need to be very careful when we draw such conclusions about the etymology of the characters. Most of the time it's very far-fetched and misleading, but language learners do love a great story about how the character started to look like it is now. It does make learning so much more fun and actually helps us memorize. So the beauty of the Chinese characters, the etymology, the fun stories behind them is another reason why I love it so much. Okay, reason number 3 is amazing learning resources. Once you start digging into authentic Chinese media, it's like a whole new universe of social media content, of bloggers, of topics and content creators. And all of this is great learning resources. As beginners, we kind of tend to use special materials that are created for English speakers. There is transcription, it's learner-friendly, and then you open a Chinese website and it's like a myriad of new characters pop your way and you don't know what they mean. And of course it's intimidating. People speak so fast, there are so many new words. But actually after several months of study you have that critical mass of words, of characters that you need to start digging into authentic content. And this authentic content is a never-ending source of cultural information, how China lives now, how they actually speak now, because, well, after all, it is different from the textbooks that you learn from. You get to know what Chinese people are laughing at, you get to know all those cool expressions that they use and that you never get from textbooks. Well, the main thing here is don't be put off by the interface, which often looks aggressive to a Western eye. Chinese websites and Chinese social media, they tend to have that there is just too much of everything. But this is actually how they like it. Start small, don't try to translate everything and to understand everything. Just find something that you personally think is interesting, and understanding will grow exponentially. Okay, reason number 4, relatively easy grammar. When I mean relatively easy grammar, I don't mean Chinese doesn't have it at all, or that you don't have to put effort into understanding how the language works. You don't have to put effort into practicing it. Not it. What I mean is that it is easy from the point of view of European grammar. Actually, at some point I was thinking about studying Greek, because lots of international words have Greek origin and lots of Russian words come from Greek, so I thought it would be really fun and really insightful to see what those words mean, what those stems mean in the original. And also Greek alphabet is so cool. But then I found out that Greek has cases, and studying case endings is not fun. I teach Russian and I know how foreigners struggle with case endings. That is the most frustrating thing in the language probably ever. So then I dropped the whole idea. I don't want to learn Greek because I just don't want to learn cases. So Chinese grammar is easy in the European sense of it, in the sense of Greek or Latin grammar. Chinese don't have cases, moods, tenses, declinations, conjugations, and many other kinds of shuns that Roman languages have. At the same time, Chinese grammar is all about syntax. It's all about the word order. And that is tricky and absolutely unintuitive for English speakers or for speakers of other European languages. But still, I do think that Chinese grammar is a great advantage for language learners, because you don't have to spend so much time conjugating, which is the most boring thing ever, and you can focus on some other more fascinating aspects of the language, like characters or something else that you find interesting. Okay, and the reason number 5, it has nothing to do with the Chinese language per se. It has more to do with the Chinese culture, and I'm talking about the compliments that you get when you're speaking Chinese. This just never gets old. No matter what your actual level is, you never lack compliments from native speakers. They are so nice. They always tell you, 中文讲得那么好. And it is always music to your ears. Of course, we all understand that it is merely a social custom, that they're just giving you face, that it's merely an automatic response to a foreigner speaking their language than anything else, and it's definitely not an indication of your actual language skills. So of course we don't take it at face value, and we know that there is still a long way to go. But I still think that Chinese people are probably the most genuinely enthusiastic and supportive about foreigners speaking their language of all nations, because they also know that Chinese is hard and they appreciate the effort and interest in their language and their culture. So I always feel very comfortable, and I know that they're not gonna make fun of me, and they're always trying to help, and this is great. This is an amazing trait. I really respect Chinese people for that. So these are the reasons why I love Chinese so much and why I still enjoy learning it after so many years. Write in the comments below what are your reasons for learning Chinese and how are you enjoying it. Okay, thanks for watching. 谢谢大家耐心观看，下次再见，拜拜。